Hey everyone, it's Cassie and welcome back to my YouTube channel for another video. Today we're going to be making a Slimline card. I know you're shocked. And we're going to be using some new Trinity Stamps products. This is the Just Keep Swimming stamp. Love this. And I love this line of stamps that they have with just the sentiments the way that they are. So we're also going to be using the Slimline stitched dies. Sets like these are just great to have in your arsenal when you're making Slimline. We're also going to be using some new stencils. This is the layered palm tree stencil, which is really so cool. I love this idea. You have two stencils, and one of them has a big palm tree on it. I'll try to show you here with some white cardstock, but it has a big palm tree with three little separate areas. And then this one has a smaller palm tree and also some little like bushes, and then you see that curved edge where you can make some sandbanks as well. So I love this idea. It's really fantastic. And I love that companies are doing this now. Then we're also going to be using another new stencil called Waving Hello, just perfect for this Just Keep Swimming card I'm going to be making. So it's got these two and they line up just perfect. That's what I really like about these stencils, is that you can layer them up and it's so effortless really. And then I have my cardstock cut down, ready to be die cut. And we're also going to be using some of these new to me embellishments. These are the Starfish Wish. And then the little bubbles are rainbow fish. Aren't those cute? I love them. And I'll let you be the judge, but I think I go a little bit overboard with those rainbow fish bubbles. All right, let's take out our Slimline stitched die, and we're going to run this through our die cutting machine. And then we're going to take some purple tape and roll that up, and we're going to stick it on the back so that I can do all of the stenciling. I'm going to do stenciling first before I do any stamping. So I'll just take this and tape it down to my glass mat. That just makes it that much easier. And we'll pull out a little bit more purple tape so that we can secure our stencil. And then I'm going to grab my Distress inks. I haven't used these in a hot minute because there's a lot of other great products out there too. But this first one that I have is old paper. That's going to be our little sandbanks. And I'm going to take this and I'm going to move it over to the other side of this, the card panel. And that way we'll have two little sandbanks, which, I don't know, I just thought that would be kind of fun. We'll clean that off a little bit, and then we're going to pull out some brushed corduroy for our first layer of the tree. And then I'll wipe that off, and we're actually going to just flip the stencil, so that way I can get the other side. And then we've got it kind of uniform, and it'll frame out our sentiment really nicely. I'll clean that off, and then we're going to grab some ground espresso for our second layer of the trunk. Super easy to line up. And then we'll just, sponge that out too. And it's just these little details that really add to it. If you are concerned that you might get some ink blending in other parts of the stencil, you can easily mask those off with just a little bit of Post-it tape or something. So I'll wipe that off, flip it over, and then line it up again. And we'll do the same exact thing. And now we're ready to move on to the greenery of the palm tree, the palms themselves. The first color I've started with on our biggest opening of the stencil is Twisted Citron. Again, clean it off, flip it over. It's the same process back and forth this entire time. But I just think this is, like I said, just a neat concept. So now the next color that I'm going to use is Crushed Olive. That'll be for my next darkest layer, and wipe it off, flip it over, line it up, super simple, and we'll do the same thing. And then our final color, and I won't bore you with both of them even though I've gone this far and bored you this far, is going to be some Mowed Lawn, and it just kind of sticks right on top there. We'll tape this down, and the Mowed Lawn, I feel like, it's interesting. As far as the color goes, I wasn't sure how these three would layer, but in the end I really liked it. I didn't really like the Twisted Citron and the Crushed Olive at first, but once I added the Mowed Lawn, I was a little happier. All right, now we'll pull out our Waving Hello stencil and we'll tack it down as well. Just one of the layers. It doesn't matter which one you start with. And I'm going to use some tumbled glass. And instead of using my mini ink blending tools, I'm just using a blending brush. My point in that is I was trying to be very soft-handed because I tend to be very heavy-handed, and I know that with the blending brushes I can usually get a softer blend, which is what I was going for here. because I'm actually trying to avoid the palm trees and the sand. I'm just trying to get around all of those pieces. Now, I don't care if it kind of overlaps a little bit. That doesn't bother me. But I'm kind of happy with how the tumbled glass looks. And then I'll line up the other stencil and we'll grab out some Salty Ocean. It just made sense, right? Salty Ocean. And here I ended up, like I said, I wanted to be light-handed, but I ended up getting a little bit heavy-handed in some areas. I was going to, and I did, stamp over the top of the stenciling that I do. And I was afraid that if I went too heavy-handed, it would be very hard to see the stamping. So in some areas it's a little darker than I wanted, but once you pull the stencil away and you see the two of them together, it ends up looking really nice. So I'll just finish up those edges. Then we'll pull this away, clean up our stencil, and we'll be ready to do our stamping. So I'm going to put this inside of my MISTI just to make sure, and I'm trying to line that up center-wise, just make sure that it's fairly center. But this way, if I stamp it and it's not very crisp, I can stamp it again. So I'm going to use Memento Tuxedo black ink because I do want to do some Copic coloring over the top of this. And I'm not worried about the ink underneath. It won't hurt my markers. And so I'll just stamp that down twice because the first impression was good, but not dark enough. And I forgot to mention that this cardstock is just some Neenah Solar White Classic Crest cardstock. We went fairly dark with our words. I have got B06 as my first color, and I think my advice for when you're coloring these is just slow and steady wins the race. I have a tendency to, I don't know, it's not that I'm shaky, but I sometimes color outside the lines, so I have to take my time. It looks like I'm going fast because the video is obviously sped up, but I definitely took my time in coloring this. And it makes me think of, so I've been chatting with my brother lately about his painting. Now, he doesn't paint canvases. He paints little miniature figurines for the games that he plays. And I have to tell you, I am always so incredibly impressed with the amount of detail and how he's able to paint these little figures so intricately. I just don't know that I could do it. And so we've been chatting about how he should probably start a YouTube channel because I would totally watch that all day long, just watching somebody who has that kind of talent to be able to paint like that. But yeah, so here I am fumbling over big letters going outside the lines. See, I went outside the lines there. But he does airbrushing on them. He intricate tiny paint areas, and it's so detailed, and it's just so impressive. All I did there was a little bit of flicking. I wanted to have an ombre look. That seems to be my trend when I'm coloring these type of word stamps. And then for the just and keep, I'm going to stay with B18. I thought that would add a little bit of cohesion. You know, you could have, or I could have done a different color, I suppose, but I ended up really liking how that, because it really makes it pop. I didn't want one word or one set of words to stand out more than any of the others. So I figured if I just stuck with this blue, it would be nice. I will bring in a pop of color a little bit later, and I even bring in another stamp set that I didn't show you at the beginning, but we'll talk about that when the time comes. All right, now that we're done with that, we'll color our bubbles, and this ends up being completely useless. I color them with the BG10, but you'll see, it's useless. All right, so now we're going to work on our highlights. I figure we might as well. I don't always grab the white gel pen. I don't know why, but this just seemed fitting simply because we're talking about swimming and water, right? So, and I have no rhyme or reason to where I'm putting any of my white highlights. I'm just putting it where I think it might look good, and it's probably way off as if light were actually hitting these, but we're just going to go with it. I mean, I don't think the white highlight police are going to come and, you know, check it out. So here's the inside. This card panel, or this card base, I cut to 7 inches by 8.5 inches and then scored it at 3.5 inches because I think that size is what works the best for the envelopes that I like to make using the Trinity Stamps Slimline envelope die. You could make them a little bit bigger, but I like to have them just about that size, and it's, you know, it just works out fine. So we're going through the same steps that we did earlier. I'm just using the bigger palm tree this time. So I'm using the other stencil, and then we'll do the exact same thing as far as colors go. But yeah, I think it's cool that we've got the option of a big palm tree and a smaller palm tree. So you could have some palm trees in the distance if you wanted, and a big one right up front. You could go nutso, honestly. And then here's where I bring in that extra stamp set. This is called the Summertime Sentiments, and it has some absolutely adorable sentiments in here. I feel like this is another must for your summer cards that you're making. And so I'll just ink this up with Memento Tuxedo black ink and stamp that down. And I love that it says, if you need me, call me on my shell phone. So then I'll stamp the tiny little shell next to it. And then I'm going to color that with my RV06 and RV09. Now this is a lightweight cardstock that I use, so this does come through in the back. So just keep that in mind with whatever, you know, if you decide you want to color on the inside of your cards, just if you're using a lightweight cardstock, alcohol markers will most likely bleed through. I'll attach my card panel to my card base just using some Nuvo Deluxe liquid glue. And so we don't have a lot of dimension here, obviously, but here's, you know, we're going to bring in our fun little embellishments. We've got that Starfish Wish embellishment that I put in the tidy tray. I think that is new to Trinity as well. And then we'll just put a few of those down with my jewel picker. It needs to be cleaned, so it's having a little bit of an issue picking things up, but those are easily cleanable. I'll just put a few down, kind of get those spaced out how I want them, and then I'll glue those down the same way. And I just love that pop of pink. That's why I really wanted those starfish on there. I thought the pink and the blue went so well together. And then that tidy tray is nice because you just, you know, pour everything back in. Now we're grabbing out the rainbow fish little bubbles. They're flat back pearls, and this is where I kind of went a little overboard possibly. I started out thinking I was just going to put a few in some of the bubbles, and watching it on screen I think that would look fine. You know, you wouldn't have to fill them all in, but I think once I got started I just couldn't stop. So yeah, I'm just gluing all of those down. I covered up all of those bubbles, and it's very embellishment heavy, but to be honest with you, I kind of like the way that it looks. I think it would look fine the other way, but I like the way that this looks too. So whoever gets this card, it's pretty embellishment heavy. But it's fun. It's fun. And I love the sentiment. It's just fun. And once that is done, I'm actually done with the card, but I do make an envelope. So again, that uses the Slimline envelope die. And here's our card up close and personal. And as you can see, I did make an envelope. This uses the Denim Ripple Specialty Cardstock by Tonic. It's a beautiful cardstock, and I thought that that would just work beautifully with our Just Keep Swimming. And it fits in there lovely. And close it up, and you really, I mean, it's not heavy. Obviously, you can feel the pearls, but it's not that heavy, and it works great. So there you go. If you liked this video, please hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already done so. I typically have 3 to 4 videos a week, and I would really love it if you kept coming by. Thanks to all of you who've been using my affiliate links, who have been liking and subscribing. That stuff all helps this channel more than you even know, and I do appreciate you. So thank you so much for stopping by, and I will see you very soon in another video. Bye, everybody.